Christmas holiday is long behind us. Retailers and consumers benefited from well-organized cargo movement this year. The peak season of 2005 came and went without the congestion and confusion of 2004. Because of responsive strategic planning and the implementation of new initiatives, the goods movement industry has improved operational efficiencies on the waterfront. The days of 94 ships waiting for a chance to dock and unload in the Los Angeles Long Beach harbor are mercifully just a memory.
Everybody wants their product. You know, Christmas was coming up and it looks like we're the bad Santa. We're not the bad Santa. We're here doing a job. And if we don't have the proper people, we can't do it. You try to do the job, but I can't ask a cook to cook me a piece of steak without fire, So, us on the docks, you need everybody. You need the clerks, you need the foremen.
But I called it the perfect storm, because really it was an issue. We had a shortage of labor. We had problems with the trucking, not enough drivers. We had a situation with the rail, not enough equipment for the rail to get in. The technology on the terminals wasn't functioning as well as it might. And all of those things combined, plus we had a peak season that jumped at a 14% level when they had been looking at 5%. So all those factors collaborated to create this perfect storm that resulted in the 2004 congestion.
In contrast to the crisis of 2004, the success story of the 2005 peak season included several compelling chapters worth recalling. To start, longshore labor was more abundant. There were more workers on the docks and in the terminals than in previous years. Also, more accurate projections for labor requirements were developed from new, highly effective metric quantifications that track goods movement trends. The Pier Pass Off-Peak Hours initiative progressed to full implementation, effectively spreading out the flow of truck traffic on the freeways, bridges, and surface streets. The percentage of total cargo moved during off-peak hours jumped from 12% before July to about 33% through November and has maintained that pace since. Rail capacity and velocity increased as the railroad companies hired new workers, added new track capacity eastward, and implemented other operational improvements. Loading and unloading of direct on-dock rail grew significantly, helping reduce the number of trucks using the local freeways, roads, and bridges. At the request of the shipping industry, marine terminals in both ports shortened the length of free time containers could sit inside the yards. Technology improvements, including the use of optical character readers to increase the processing rate of container cargo, facilitated faster truck movement into and out of the terminal gates. Finally, utilizing strategic planning to reduce the risks of Los Angeles Long Beach congestion, shipping lines redirected some flow to other ports along the West Coast for delivery of discretionary cargo.
Well, let's not forget that this is one of the best port complexes in the world. And I've seen most of the world, so I can say that honestly. It certainly is the most productive and efficient one in this country. If we're going to continue to provide cargo movements to, again, the region and to the nation, we have to be efficient and forward-thinking. And I think the fact that we're all saying these words and all actually looking into these programs sends a very positive and strong message to cargo owners that this is the place to be in the future.
Well, I think you've got to give the credit to all the stakeholders. I don't think that anybody should be left behind when you talk about the success of 2005, whether it was the ILWU, the railroads, the truckers, the shippers, the shipping lines, the marine terminal operators, the ports themselves. I think we all collaborated very well. We started to talk a lot more, discuss what we needed to do. I think we recognize the interdependence that all the stakeholders have on each other, and so if I left out anybody, it's not intentional, but we all should be congratulated for doing a good job.
While the goods movement industry as a whole deserves credit for improving operational efficiency in the LA Long Beach harbor, major issues are still unresolved for the future. Growth in cargo traffic increased by 10% in 2005. Projections are that growth possibly could continue in double digits for the next several years. Two major trends portend accelerated growth at a level that could overwhelm the current infrastructure and render the recent operational improvements moot. The first major trend is the continual increase of offshore outsourcing of U.S. manufacturing to Asian countries. The consumer demand for imported manufactured goods also grows as the U.S. population increases. The population growth of Southern California and the Southwest continues to increase the size of the local market for imported goods, enhancing the attractiveness of the LA Long Beach ports. The growth pattern extends from San Diego to Phoenix to Las Vegas to San Luis Obispo and beyond.
People are still coming to this area. We're expecting 6 million additional people in Southern California between now and the year 2030. That's 25 years. 30% of those are people that are coming here, but 2/3 of it are just the children of the individuals that live here. So that's bringing a lot of population growth all over our 6-county region. The major increases are in the Inland Empire, Riverside, and San Bernardino, but there's going to be significant population increase in LA County. And that population growth brings with it a whole set of challenges, including transportation, including housing demands, and finally, given the industry base here, how we move our goods and the movement of trucks and trains within the region.
The second major trend is the ever-increasing fleet of larger supervessels, massive ships that can carry as many as 5,000 40-foot containers or 10,000 20-foot equivalent units in one journey. These larger ships strain the system because they require deeper channels, taller bridges, and more acres of land to store the containers immediately after they are unloaded. A succession of large vessels arriving at the same time can impact the number of trucks simultaneously jamming onto the 710 freeway, as well as the number of trains that must be made available then. Also, these ships must use larger established ports like Long Beach and Los Angeles because of their sheer size and the associated types of berthing facilities and unloading equipment they require. Diversion to smaller ports with their own capacity constraints is not always possible or practical. The Panama Canal option is out of the question for larger vessels. In addition to the vast local market, the extensive variety of secondary but related transportation opportunities will always make Southern California a prime importation destination. These opportunities include several large airports and a proliferation of warehouses and distribution centers.
I don't think that ultimately we're going to be able to restrain trade. Trade is going to continue to come. A percentage of it will be siphoned off, if you will, to some of the alternative gateways that are being discussed in Mexico and Canada. But by our projections, even if all of those projects come to fruition within the next 5 years, at best it would buy us the capacity to handle about 3 years' worth of U.S. trade growth. So in the long term, we have got to deal with our issues in Southern California and on the West Coast in place in Southern California.
Infrastructure improvement is clearly required to continue operating the LA Long Beach Harbor efficiently, especially when the projected growth materializes. The effects of larger ships bringing in massive quantities of goods, coupled with the U.S. population growth feeding the ever-increasing demand for containerized imports, could make local freeway travel nearly impossible. More rail service to send containers directly to the nation's interior will be essential. This is a problem of national scope. However, Southern California disproportionately bears the environmental cost of bringing in the cargo. Simultaneously, though, the region benefits from jobs created, businesses stimulated, and tax revenues generated.
There was a mandate in the mid to late 90s from the commission at that time to grow the port and to really increase its profitability as an asset to the city. And that made sense, and it continues to make sense as an economic engine for the city, for the region, for the country, for that matter. But I think that at that time there wasn't a recognition that there would be these detrimental environmental effects. And I think as time has gone on, those have become more and more of major concern to residents.
There are basically two challenges with growth in Los Angeles Long Beach goods movement. The first challenge is the additional congestion and air pollution that would inevitably result without major mitigation efforts. The community's concerns about clean air and maintaining a healthy quality of life must be addressed. Recently published studies about the ominous health impacts of air pollution generated by activity at the ports cannot be disregarded. Many in the community don't believe the jobs and economic benefits are worth the environmental impact. Striking the balance becomes more difficult as communities perceive threats to their quality of life.
Within a year, we know that hundreds of people die from diesel emissions that are directly linked to goods movement industry. Now, if that was to happen in one day or in 1 hour, we would call it a disaster. But because it's in slow motion, we perceive it to be different. We really would like people to look at this as an environmental justice issue, that no one should pay the cost of, cheap goods.
From our perspective, we tried to focus on the health risks associated with the port activity. I think if we can do that and we can get those levels down below to the insignificant level, then we can achieve that balance. And I think we want to go a little bit further in terms of, we just don't want to do this for the level of growth we have here now. I think we want to look towards the future. And recognizing that our volumes are going to increase, we want to be able to facilitate the growth that our customers are forecasting and provide the types of facilities that they need. But we're going to have to do that hand in hand with working on this air emission issue.
The second challenge is finding the funding for infrastructure improvements that can increase capacity, reduce congestion, and mitigate environmental impacts. The amount of money needed to upgrade the current infrastructure with environmental mitigation is estimated at $36 billion. The federal government has provided some funding, but it's only a fraction of the amount required. State government typically has limited dollars available and struggles with deficits. Bond initiatives, however, may show promise. Private industry also will be asked to pay a share. Fees and surcharges for goods movement may be a partial solution, though agreement on the processes and the amounts is uncertain.
If there is no improvement in infrastructure, the demand here is quite elastic. Even a fee of $60 per 40-foot container would result in 6% of the volume leaving for other ports. On the other hand, if there is a major program of infrastructure improvement, a specific program involving dedicated truck lanes, to where the transloading warehouses are, connecting them with the ports. If there's expansion of the railroad terminals and network to accommodate higher volumes with increased reliability of transit times, then even a fee as large as $200 per 40-foot equivalent unit would not result in a loss of total traffic.
We're looking to get the best value for the people of California, and to do that we want to make sure that we bring all the parties to the table. That's why this is a systems approach to look at all the needs comprehensively so that we don't waste resources. We're looking for all the federal sources that we normally go after, but also there's other federal funds that we believe are quite appropriate, Homeland Security and energy-related appropriations that will be available to California. So we want to tap all of that. In addition, we see that there is an opportunity for private investment, and for that we're looking to get past public-private partnership legislation that will enable the state to pursue these partnerships in a way that will attract foreign or other investment potential so that we can get the best bang for the buck for the people of California.
Ultimately, the communities, the goods movement industry, cargo owners, government agencies, end users, and local politicians must come to a consensus with state and federal legislators on the urgency of the infrastructure problem and the methods required to mitigate the environmental impact. Funding for solutions must come from a combination of public and private sources. This is now a national problem because of the economic stakes involved. The voice of California needs to be heard as a united chorus of shared interests and vital needs in this ongoing debate and dialogue.